All right, everybody. Welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Facebook page. We are live today with a special Careers in the NFL program featuring the Director of Photography and the lead photographer for the National Football League, Mr. Ben Liebenberg. And we're going to get to him in 1 second. But we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you, watching and learning a little bit about, there's so many careers in the game of football and sports in general. You can be a player, a coach. You can work in athletic training, social media. You can be, game day entertainment. But there's so many other careers outside that. And we're going to talk about the photography career more specifically today with Mr. Leibenberg. Before we turn things over to him, just want to go over, what the Hall of Fame stands for. Again, my name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm happy to be speaking with everybody today. And our mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which play an important role and not only make Hall of Famers great on the field, but they make our Hall of Famers and everybody else that incorporates those values into their lives better off the field. And I'm excited to talk to Mr. Leibenberg today. I know I'm going to learn a lot, and I hope you guys learn a lot as well. So without further ado, we'll turn things over some quick opening remarks to Mr. Ben Leibenberg. Ben, we're happy you could join us today.
Jacob, thanks for having me. It's truly an honor to be on the Facebook page with the Hall of Fame and talk football and photography, the history behind it all. So why don't we just jump right into it?
All right. So before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about, I want to learn a little bit about Ben Liebenberg, the person. So can you just go through? So we obviously know your name, but what is and we know your current job title. But how did you get to your start in the photography game?
Yeah, so the 2020 season will be my 14th season working for the NFL specifically, and about my 16th season overall covering the NFL. I started way back when I was in college as an assistant with Sports Illustrated and doing a lot of football games with some of the best photographers to ever shoot the game of football. Guys like John Beaver, Peter Reed Miller, Brad Mangin, Dave Bergman, Robert Beck, John McDonough, some of the real greats. And I learned a tremendous amount from those guys and watching those guys and just soaking it all in. That's where I really got my start in football and sports in general.
Now, growing up, did you have a favorite NFL team?
I grew up in the Bay Area, so, the 49ers, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, those were my guys. If you look behind me, I have a couple of my favorite photos, from a couple of my favorite photographers.
I should have known. As soon as I said that, I looked and saw the 49ers pictures back there. You got to catch one of the most iconic plays in the history of the game. So have you gotten to cover, growing up being a 49ers fan, is that something you've gotten to cover within your time in the NFL?
Yeah, 49ers. I've done two of their Super Bowls. Unfortunately, not the outcome I would have liked. I've done quite a few 49ers games living in California. It's a easy trip up to the Bay Area to do games up there. I love going up there. I grew up there, so it's always nice to be there. I was lucky enough to shoot games at Candlestick as well as the new stadium. So it was always a fun experience going to Candlestick, and that was an iconic stadium.
Growing up, and it could be something you've either covered recently, something you remember as a kid, but do you have a favorite football or sports memory that stands out above some of the others throughout your life, throughout your career?
Yeah, I do actually. And it's funny because it's was with the Hall of Fame. And I can't tell you what year it was because I don't remember exactly, but it was when Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith were they were backstage at the Super Bowl in the green room waiting to hear if they were going to get into the Hall of Fame. And I was lucky enough to be there photographing that moment when they watched it and heard it on TV. And growing up in that era of football and Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith was a pretty spectacular moment.
That had to be special. You see the knock on the door is the thing the Hall of Fame does today to notify these guys
Yeah.
that they've been in the Hall of Fame. I'm lucky enough to be a part of one of those and to see just the raw emotion
Yeah.
that these guys, there's like a huge weight lifted off their shoulders. So it's truly a special moment, and to capture that in person is something obviously that you'll remember for a long time. And I'm glad you talked about the Hall of Fame. One of the things you get to do within your job, and I've learned because I've gotten to help you out within my career at the Hall of Fame when it comes to enshrinement ceremonies and enshrinement week powered by Johnson Controls. When you come to Canton, Ohio, is there an event you look forward to? Or, what do you look forward to the most, when you come to Canton to spend the week or week and a half covering all the great events that we have during enshrinement week?
Yeah. So I've probably been to Canton probably 25 to 30 times, and every time I go there, it's magical. It's a magical place. You get goosebumps when you walk in and you see, the photos of, artifacts, Jim Thorpe, things like that, the guys that, 100 years ago that were, playing football, and the history that is in that building. I've been lucky enough to see some of the archive stuff and go down into the 3D archive and see helmets and footballs, the David Tyree helmet that he wore when, in the Super Bowl, things like that. The turf that Franco caught the immaculate reception on, things like that. I mean, those are really cool things to see, and I get goosebumps every time I go there. And the enshrinement week is a fun week, or there's so much going on. The people, the volunteers, everyone is super nice. It's a real easy, fun event to work, and the people there just love football, and that's why they're there,
So throughout the weeks and throughout your time covering the events in Canton, Ohio, is there an event that sticks out to you as maybe your favorite that you look forward to coming back to Canton to be a part of each year?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I always love the game because the game's, it's the first game. We haven't had football since the Super Bowl. So obviously love that. But I think for a really cool moment is at the Gold Jacket dinner when the Hall of Famer, this is before he's done his speeches, he's seen the bust, he gets the gold jacket. And that's where I think you can just see it in their eyes, their emotions. That's where you finally feel like it sets in, like they're going into the Hall of Fame, and they don't hold back. You can see, the love that they have for this game and the respect for the game, and, just the raw emotion, in that moment, when you do get that gold jacket put on you.
Now, the Hall of Fame is just one of your many responsibilities within your job, but can you kind of give, a 10,000-foot view on some of your day-to-day responsibilities as the director of photography and lead photographer for the NFL, and things you have to do on a week-to-week basis to make sure there are all 32 teams that are getting coverage every week during the season?
Yeah, absolutely. So my team is responsible for all the photography on all of our owned and operated platforms. So that's anything from NFL.com to our mobile app to connected TVs, things like that. We also handle all the photography needs for all the groups within the NFL. So if our community relations team has an event they need covered, if our events team, our marketing, PR, anyone has an event that they need covered, we work with them to get those covered and get them the photos that they need. Especially around our events. Our events are pretty massive, and there's a lot of things going on. Especially like around Super Bowl throughout the week. I think we did 100 plus assignments this year in Miami.
Now, we mentioned those big events like the Super Bowl, the NFL Honors Show.
Yeah.
As a photographer or the lead photographer, what kind of planning do you have to do, and what kind of skills does it take to make sure that you don't miss out on that special moment or that special event
Yeah.
at all these big NFL events?
Yeah, our planning starts well in advance, especially for an event like the Super Bowl. I've already been to Tampa for this Super Bowl. There's several more meetings between now and December that are planned. We'll go through. We'll fly out. We'll look at locations. We'll map out where our on game day, where is our production trailer going to be, that we set up in, and all of our photographers are based out of. Where are our photo editors going to be within the stadium on game day? We will go and physically look at those locations. We will look at how we're going to run cable to various locations so we can tether cameras. We will go to the NFL Honors location and see where we're going to set up a portrait studio, where we're going to have our photographer, positioned to shoot the show, where the red carpet's going to be. We will look at all that well in advance. We look like we're already looking at technical drawings of the stadium, of different areas of Tampa. So my planning for it really starts about now. When we start looking at just general ideas, we start looking at where we can put photographers in the stands, where we can how we're gonna run everything, and what is our team gonna look like. We're already starting to think through that. And by early October, we have a pretty good sense of, here's the team, this is what we need to have in place, and we're, trying to put final touches on a lot of things at that point.
So, outside of the obvious, like time management, being organized, being a detail oriented person, if there's, because photography is one of those things that a lot of people can do, as a side passion. It's something that people have a passion for. They can go out on the weekend, take photos. But for somebody that has the interest like you did and wants to turn it into a full-time career, what would some suggestions be that you have to those high school, college, or maybe they're out of college and they're kind of trying to find their path? What would some tips that you would have for these individuals, classes that you would take, things to do, to reach that level, to one day maybe be at the Ben Liebenberg level of photographers in sports and all events?
Yeah. I always like to tell young people, your talent's going to get you your foot in the door a lot of times, but your relationships are going to keep you there. It's your networking, it's your the way you conduct yourself, the way you are perceived by your peers, and I think that probably ties in a lot to the Hall of Fame as well. It's you look at the Hall of Famers that are there in Canton. It's not just what they did on the field, it's how they conducted themselves, in their personal lives, off the field, what they did, in their communities, things like that, and it's not just what you do on the field.
So, kind of jump in to another topic here. You recently, the Pro Football Hall of Fame has an annual photo
Mhm.
contest every year. This year, I believe it was the 52nd, if I'm right.
Yep.
And that photo contest rewards photos from the previous NFL season. And we just announced the two big winners for the action category and the feature category. So those are the two big categories that the photo contest awards. What are the difference between the two?
Okay. Good question. So your action category is going to be, peak action, big plays, diving for a pylon, things like that. Your feature category is going to be it's the small moments. It could be in the locker room. It could be in a tunnel. It could be during the national anthem. Things like that. It's a little bit away from the field or away from the action. I think some of the one of the photos from the contest was Eli Manning and Daniel Jones in the locker room pregame getting dressed. A great photo, great moment, things like that. Um, and your action is going to be the catch, the the someone diving for a pylon or things like that.
Do you have, out of the two, is one of yours more favorite? Because I can see how both, like you said, the actions, that big play, it's that moment
Yeah.
that everybody's going to remember. But the feature category, kind of catches the guys in their element. It's going to get those behind the scenes look, and we'll look at the winner, because the winner in this year's feature category is a really great photo, and it's something not a lot of people think of, because when they think of that, they're thinking of those big action plays. But do you have a favorite category out of the two?
I'm it's I'm split on this. This is a tough one because I mean, obviously I love peak action, but I love moments. I love those small things that if you blink, you miss it. That's what I like. And I think the features category really gives fans a different look, a different look into things you might not see on TV and things like that.
So before we jump in and actually kind of take a look and have you go through each of the two winning photos this year, what is the judging process actually like to come down to pick these two winners?
It's tough. It's really tough. We have a team of photographers from around the country. Different teams represented. I believe we started with about 1,600 photos, which is probably more than most years. It's a lot. It took us a good chunk of the day to go through and whittle those down. And then trying to pick out of 1,600 photos, basically your two favorite, and get everyone to agree on it. There's definitely some discussions, some heated discussions, some persuading, and it's a process, and you go through and you just keep whittling it down each round, and there's some amazing photos that get cut, and it's tough. It's tough. There's some, you when you get down to like 20 photos in a category, you're really looking at small details, and you it gets real tough at that point, because you're throwing out some really great photos and some really great moments.
As a photographer and as an employee of the NFL, and who has a passion for what they do, what does it mean to you to have the privilege to be one of those judges for the Hall's annual photo contest?
I mean, it's an honor. I mean, this is a great photo contest, and I appreciate everything that the Hall of Fame does to keep it going. For 52 years, and it's kind of the pinnacle of what we do all year, and to be recognized, by the Hall of Fame is a pretty big honor, and I think the Hall of Fame does a really great job of really showcasing the photographer, the winning photograph, and bringing the photographer out to Canton for the enshrinement week. That's a pretty cool experience to go to all those events like that as a guest of the Hall of Fame.
So what we're going to do now is I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to dive in and look at these two winners, the action winner and the feature winner. The first one we're going to look at is actually going to be our action winner. And I believe the photo is titled Air Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can see that there.
Yep.
So you got Keenan Allen, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers, diving in the end zone against the Denver Broncos. So this was ultimately the photo that won the contest. And why was it ultimately chosen as a winner?
I think a lot of things lined up really nicely in this photo. You obviously have, captured at the height of Allen's dive. I think you have the lines of the the sideline, you have the official running in that's framed perfectly within that box.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that when I first looked at it, but yeah, that's
you
absolutely perfect.
you have the, the shape of the Broncos player, and the thing that I really love about this photo is the fact that the pylon is bent,
Yeah.
just slightly, like captured it, just perfectly before it's, kicked out of bounds or wherever it ended up. But, I think just everything aligned perfectly in this photo.
Now, is that a photo that just by happenstance happened to catch one click of, or is that one of the ones you have your photographers positioned, and it's like this is what's coming, and we feel like this can be a great spot where we can get a great photo like that one.
You know, it, Everybody has their spots on the field that they like to be in, for various reasons, for to make sure they're getting what they need, and a lot of things could change, 2 feet, to each side. I've seen photos of this play that probably didn't make it past the first round. It's everything doesn't, just because you shot that play, like, doesn't mean it was a winning photo.
Okay. So we're going to jump there. I'll share my screen again here. We're going to go to our second category, and that's going to be the feature category. And like I said earlier, this might be one of my most favorite photographs I have ever seen. And I think it just captured, not only a great shot, but it kind of captures the game itself. And, it's not just the glitz and glam. It's the mud. It's the, ground and pound of the game of football.
Yeah, for me, I think this photo really illustrates, you know, football in the elements. Football was meant to be played in the elements, like this. And you do not see this very much anymore with domes, with turf, artificial turf. So to have a game that with this much water and this much mud is unique in itself, but an amazing. There was a lot of great photos that came out of this game in particular, and there was a lot of photos of this player, that were entered in the contest, and just the look on his face in this frame, the composition, the mud, just made it for an amazing, gorgeous photo.
I definitely agree. I think, both those are great examples of, the difference between both of those categories, both well deserving. I know that both of those photographers got the chance to talk to my good friend, coworker, Jameer Howerton on the Mission podcast, as well as yourself, about, those photos and, and the moment that it happened. So those are great photos, definitely well deserving of the photo contest victory, you could say. For the 2019 season. And, it's a challenge now for those photographers this year, being 2020 and the new season just announced last night. I got some big matchups throughout the year. So there's definitely opportunity for those to be unseated as my favorite photograph for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of jump into now along the same lines. Is there a photo, and I know this is going to be a really, really tough question, but is there a photo that stands out to you as maybe your favorite that you have ever taken?
I think that's probably one of the toughest questions for a photographer. But I think for me, I got a couple. I took a photo, the Ravens 49ers Super Bowl post game. I ended up running around to the back of the stage, and I ended up in a crowd of people, and I realized I was right next to Ray Lewis, and there was no other photographers around me. He put his hands together in a prayer-like motion and looked upward. It probably took about 2 seconds to happen. And then he kept going through the crowd, and I got one frame of it, and it really stands out as, just a moment of, to me, that, I was able to capture. And it was pretty cool to see that. And it's just, he looks up at, to the air, to the roof of the stadium, and and just kind of gave a little thank you.
Yeah, those
Very
those
cool
moments,
moment.
those special moments that not everybody gets to see, that you've
Yeah,
had the pleasure and the opportunity to kind of catch those moments, and then provide them, so everybody around the country
yeah.
can see that kind of inside look. Now, you obviously, like we talked about, these photos getting awarded, and you've been with the NFL, as you said, now for 14 years. Has your department or your team within the league won any specific awards or were recognized for the work that you guys have done as a photography team within the NFL?
Yeah, we actually, obviously, the NFL and NFL Films has won a lot of Emmy awards over the years, but my team was responsible. We actually won 2 Emmy awards a few years back for 2 projects that we did, which is a pretty cool thing when you have an Emmy at your house, let
Yeah,
alone 2 of them.
I know I don't have any.
Yeah. So it was definitely a great moment for the photo team as a group. We did these projects and they came out really well, and it was really cool to be recognized in that manner.
Now we talk about all these because you've got the cover. You said you've been at Super Bowls, all these great events, Enshrinement Week, Powered by Johnson Controls, and Canton, Super Bowls, honor shows. Is there an event that stands out to you that may have been your favorite ever to attend, or a specific Super Bowl, specific honor shows, or is there anything even outside of sports that you've gotten to cover that stands out to you specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I've over the last probably 18, 19 years, maybe 20 years, I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of sporting events. I've been to World Series. I've been to the Olympics. I've been to golf majors. Done, I think, 13 Super Bowls. I've done, NFL drafts, NFL combines, kickoff games, Hall of Fame, enshrinement weeks. I've been to Mexico. I've been to games in London. I think one of my favorite events, not really an event, but just assignment that I did with the NFL was about a year and a half ago. I went with our international team to Brazil with Russell Wilson and Ciara, and traveled around Rio de Janeiro with them, and really got to know Russell Wilson and just see. I mean, he worked out on vacation, throwing passes on a beach in Rio, and put in work. And we're in February, March, early March, and he's working, and it was a pretty cool, event. We were there for a week, and seeing all these amazing locations, and experiencing that with Russell and his family, and some other folks from the international team. It was a pretty cool time. We went to a really out in the country of Brazil, outside of Rio, and they donated a bunch of equipment to a young amateur football team that didn't even have enough helmets for everyone. So they were sharing helmets. They're sharing equipment during the game. They're playing different positions, and to see when not only just to have Russell Wilson and Ciara show up, but to show up and donate all this equipment, footballs, everything, and then watch these kids catch passes from Russell Wilson. It was pretty cool, and just the look of appreciation on their faces was
What
awesome.
is, what is it about those moments? Because you get to see them live in person, to where we either get to see them on video, on TV, in photography form. What is it about those moments that are special to you? Kind of see them firsthand and take those all in.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me just realize every day why I love football and the game of football, and I love my job. Is you get to be a part of these kind of things, and the NFL, and the clubs and the Hall of Fame. They do a lot for communities around the United States and around the world. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of, and help in a small way, and capture moments at those.
I think that's too where we talked about at our beginning, our values, commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence really do play a part in everybody's career. It does. You don't have to be a football player. You can be a musician, a photographer. You don't have to work in sports. You can be a nurse, whatever it might be. We feel like those values really, speak true to what, your life can teach you. So, being, and then we'll wrap up with this question. Those values, commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. How do you feel those values translate from the game of football to everyday life? And how do you feel that those values have helped you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, eh, just think about those. Excellence. You strive, to be the best person that you can be. And I think that's instilled in people. Not just in football. We're at the end of the day, we're just a sport, but it's really a way, a lifestyle, and how you're living. And being good to each other. And being supportive, and you know things like that. I think it's it's more than just a game. Those values, and it goes far beyond the sideline.
I can't think of a better way to wrap it up. Mr. Liebenberg, thank you so much from myself, our youth and education team, all the way up to Mr. David Baker. I want to thank you for everything. First of all, for participating today and kind of talking a little bit about your career, the show students and everybody alike out there that there is more than just being a player or a coach in the NFL. There a career like photography that gets you that behind the scene access that not a lot of people can get. So I want to thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, and specifically everything you've done for us at the Hall of Fame, capturing all these great moments that we can share out to everybody across the country from our big events. So before we wrap up, just a couple quick announcements. Like we say every day, make sure you tune in to all of our Pro Football Hall of Fame social media channels right here on Facebook, our Twitter page, our Instagram page, to catch all these inside looks, some special look at artifacts that are being donated from our newest class members, all the way up to interviews like we have today. Make sure you subscribe to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's podcast, The Mission, that's hosted by Jameer Howerton, as he's going to talk to guys like Anthony Munoz about the draft and so many other different guests that he has on the podcast as well. And make sure you tune into our Facebook Live 1 week from today, as we're going to have our second annual Heart of a Hall of Famer powered by Extreme Networks Hall of Fame Staff Edition, with now retired, and you name it, he's done it. He's a football historian. He's an author. He worked at the Pro Football Hall of Fame for 42 years, Mr. Joe Horrigan. We'll have him on to talk about his career, everything he learned in the game of football, and I promise you're going to want to tune in, because he's got a lot of great stories about the game of football and everything that it teaches. So make sure you tune in 1 week from today on the 15th to hear from Mr. Joe Horrigan. Mr. Liebenberg, Ben, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, everybody who tuned in to watch this special program, and we'll see you next time here on Facebook. Thank you from everybody at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thanks, everybody.